The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the cracked pavement of Jimmy Fingers Malone's old neighborhood. It had been 5 years since he'd last set foot here. 5 years spent behind bars for a job that went sideways. The name Jimmy Fingers wasn't just some nickname. It was earned through years of precision and skill as one of the most notorious safe crackers on the East Coast. But now, standing outside his childhood home with a duffel bag slung over his shoulder, Jimmy felt more like a ghost than the legend he used to be. He pushed open the creaky door, greeted by the stale smell of dust and memories. His mother's chair still sat by the window, where she used to wait for him after school. She was gone now, passing away 2 years into his sentence. That loss weighed heavier than any prison sentence ever could. He dropped his bag onto the floor and sighed, running a hand through his graying hair. This place hadn't changed much, but Jimmy sure had. Prison taught him things about himself he didn't want to know, and somewhere deep down, he swore he'd never go back. But life has a way of pulling you back into its orbit when you least expect it. 2 days later, Jimmy found himself sitting at a dimly lit bar called the Rusty Nail, nursing a whiskey sour. He hadn't planned on coming here tonight. It was too close to his old haunts. But loneliness can make even the strongest resolve crumble. As he sipped his drink, a familiar voice cut through the haze of cigarette smoke. "Jimmy Fingers. Long time no see." Jimmy turned slowly, his jaw tightening. Standing there was Tommy "Red" Delaney, an old associate from his criminal days. Red looked older, his fiery red hair streaked with gray, but his smirk was as cocky as ever. "What do you want, Red?" Jimmy asked, his tone flat. "Relax, man. Just thought I'd say hi to an old friend." Red slid into the seat across from him, signaling the bartender for a beer. "Heard you got out. How's freedom treating you?" "It's fine," Jimmy muttered, avoiding eye contact. He didn't trust Red, not then, not now. There was always an angle with guys like him. Red leaned forward, lowering his voice. "Listen, Jimmy, I ain't gonna lie. I came here for a reason. Word is, you're the best there is when it comes to cracking safes. And we've got ourselves a situation." Jimmy shook his head immediately. "Nope. Not interested. Come on, hear me out." Red pressed. "This isn't some rinky-dink liquor store job. We're talking big money. A score so clean, you'll walk away set for life." Jimmy stared hard at Red, searching for the catch. "Why me? You know I'm done with that life." "Because nobody else can pull this off," Red said earnestly. "And because if you don't help us, we're screwed." "Look, I wouldn't ask if it weren't important." For a moment, Jimmy considered walking away, but something in Red's tone gave him pause. Maybe it was desperation, or maybe it was guilt. Either way, curiosity got the better of him. "What's the job?" he asked reluctantly. The plan was audacious, bordering on insane. They were targeting the vault of Sterling and Company, one of the city's oldest banks, known for its impenetrable security systems and state-of-the-art biometric locks. The bank was considered untouchable, but according to Red, they'd found a way in, a maintenance tunnel beneath, the building that led directly to the vault room. All they needed was someone who could crack the inner safe once they were inside. "And let me guess," Jimmy said dryly. "You picked me because I'm the only idiot dumb enough to try." "You're not dumb, Jimmy," Red replied. "You're the best, and we need the best." Jimmy paced the dingy apartment where Red and his crew had set up shop. Maps of the bank were spread across the table, along with blueprints of the vault. It was meticulous planning, almost professional. "Almost. I told you. I'm out," Jimmy said firmly. "I did my time. I'm not throwing it all away again." Red stood up, his face serious. "We don't have a choice, Jimmy. If we don't pull this off, people are going to get hurt. Bad." That stopped Jimmy cold. "What are you talking about?" Red hesitated before answering. "It's not just about the money. Some bad people are breathing down our necks. People who don't take kindly to failure. If we don't deliver, they'll come after us. And anyone we care about." Jimmy's mind raced. He wanted nothing to do with this. But Red's words hit closer to home than he cared to admit. The thought of losing someone else, because of his choices, gnawed at him. Could he live with himself if he walked away? "All right," Jimmy finally said, exhaling sharply. "I'll do it." But on one condition. We do it my way. No shortcuts, no screw-ups. Red grinned, relief washing over his face. You got it, partner. The night of the heist arrived faster than Jimmy would have liked. Dressed in black tactical gear, he joined Red and the rest of the team in the maintenance tunnel. The air was damp and cold, and the distant hum of machinery echoed around them. Every step felt heavier than the last, each one bringing him closer to a line he swore he'd never cross again. When they reached the vault room, Jimmy knelt before the massive steel door. His hands trembled slightly as he examined the lock mechanism. Years of practice kicked in, and soon he was lost in the rhythm of his work, the soft clicks and whirs of tumblers falling into place. Time seemed to stand still until, finally, the heavy door swung open with a satisfying groan. Inside, stacks of cash and safety deposit boxes lined the walls. The others cheered quietly, but Jimmy barely registered their excitement. Instead, he focused on the task at hand, opening the secondary safe hidden within the vault. This was the real challenge, the one that would make or break them. As Jimmy worked, a sudden noise froze everyone in place. Footsteps echoed in the distance, growing louder with each passing second. "We've got company," whispered one of the crew members. Panic surged through Jimmy, but he forced himself to stay calm. One wrong move, and everything would fall apart. Sweat dripped from his brow as he made the final adjustments. Then, with a soft click, the safe opened. "Grab what you can and move," Red barked. They stuffed duffel bags full of cash and valuables, moving quickly but carefully. Jimmy lingered for a moment, staring at the open safe. For a brief second, he considered leaving it all behind. The money, the danger, the ghosts of his past. But reality snapped him back to attention. "Let's go," Red shouted, pulling him toward the exit. Back in the safety of their hideout, the team celebrated their success. Bottles of champagne popped, and laughter filled the room. But Jimmy remained quiet, watching the chaos unfold with a detached expression. He knew this victory came at a cost, and sooner or later, the bill would come due. As the night wore on, Red approached him with a grateful smile. "You saved us, Jimmy. None of this would have been possible without you." Jimmy nodded absently, his thoughts elsewhere. "Yeah, well, don't get used to it. This was a one-time thing." Red clapped him on the shoulder. "Fair enough. But hey, whatever happens next, we owe you." Jimmy didn't respond. Instead, he grabbed his coat and stepped outside, letting the cool night air wash over him. Freedom tasted different now, bittersweet, tinged with regret and uncertainty. He didn't know what the future held, but one thing was certain. Jimmy Fingers was done playing games. From now on, he'd carve his own path.